In today's episode, I'm joined by two of my friends from Ivy Business School, and together they have launched the Acadway, an international academic advisory platform to help guide students to higher education. And what's important is we get into how they operate and how they differentiate themselves, but also debunking the biggest myths in the guidance counseling space. There's so much misguidance in today's generation when it comes to guiding students for higher education, and we debunk a lot of that. And the Acadway can help you as well. So I'm going to link all the links down in the description below for you to check it out. And then I hope you enjoy the episode. Gentlemen, welcome to Decoding Wisdom.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having
Love it.
us.
Yeah,
It means a lot.
I've been excited for this one for
Mhm.
quite a while. So you both consultants originally, but now you have Acadway. What made you guys pursue this path of the educational, like the international academic advisor route?
Yep. So being in the boat myself, I saw the hardships and like the confusion that's there when you're trying to go abroad and like pursue even your undergrad or your master's. So a lot of counselors would kind of misguide you for their own personal benefit and then send you a way which your profile doesn't really belong in. So I feel like I saw that gap and I was myself being misled when I initially reached out to a counselor. And then I figured out that like my counselor told me that you can't get into Ivy. And I was like,
Can't get into
yeah.
Ivy.
And I
Okay.
was like, are you sure? And
Uh-huh.
then she goes like, yeah, because you need 4 years of work experience. And I was like, it says on the website, it says 4 years or equivalent. A lot of people don't know what that equivalent stands for, right? And then I was told, and I was like, I've worked at KPMG, I have like quite some good experience, my grades are top notch. Then what's lacking? And I actually like scheduled a call with one of the IB advisors, and then I figured out that they were like, okay, your profile's good enough, you can apply. But then I hired a counselor myself that I need to apply for this business school. Can you help me out? And then the counselor helped me out with my application, but I was still not satisfied. And then I went to another Ivy alumni to, can you review my profile? And he kind of like told me that this profile is not that great. You need to work on this because if you need a scholarship, you need to make sure your story is aligning, you're highlighting your strengths, you're highlighting your volunteering experience and everything. So I understood everything around that time that, okay, what does it actually take to get into a business school? And then that is why I felt like a lot of students are being misguided, and then there has to be someone who are sending them the right way, because at the end of the day, it's your future that's at stake, right? And then these people who are not caring about your future, just the money, that's not a right thing to do. Like, it doesn't stand by my ethos, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I saw it, and I saw the gap, and I definitely decided that this is something that needs to be done. So I started as a freelancer, and then I saw a lot of growth and potential. So I was like, why not have a platform for it? And then if this actually picks up, why not consider doing it full time? So that's my take on it.
Mhm. And then from my end, like I've spent some time living and working in different countries. Like I've worked in China. Part of our program, we worked in Thailand, and then I also studied a master's in Norway. And I've had that experience of like the struggles of working and living abroad. And it's something I definitely felt. And then a lot of our program were international students. They felt the struggles themselves, including Sid. So when he came to me the idea, it made perfect sense that you need kind of that personal touch for it because it's a very personal thing that you're doing. Is you're moving to a brand new country, starting essentially a new life,
Right.
and you need that personal touch because just to make the right first step. That's kind of where we came in. So when he came with me the idea, it made perfect sense, and it's been great ever since. Yeah.
So that's how did you decide that Justin was going to be your
So-
business partner?
Yeah, I'm gonna
Great question.
speak about like the three pillars of like how I decide on building a business. The first is like I think initially the people, that's like the cornerstone. They're like the culture setter of your business. So for me, it's not very important to have that skill in the very start. It's important to have the same sort of values. So I know he comes from a sustainability background and he works a lot to make sure he's creating an impact. Even his professional work experiences right now are more focused towards like sustainability consulting for that matter, right? So I knew that he was someone who would align, like whose values would align with mine. And then obviously the skill can definitely be taught. That's how I think about it. Like, I don't think you have done that before you actually started with me, like any sort of counseling, like admissions. But when you heard the idea and when you picked up your first client almost like a year and a half back, that is when you found
Yeah.
like what should be done here.
There was
right?
definitely like some trials and tribulations, but at the end of the day, like consulting is just a fancy word for giving advice,
Yep.
and we're just advising them. And I think there's no person better to do it than someone who's actually done this, gone and studied abroad, and gone through the struggles, and didn't fill this form or pick this class and things like that. And so I think like we're perfect for it, because I think that the other education consulting firms, like it's kind of there's not like that personal touch where they don't actually go through it. And while like we had just gone through it, it's very fresh in our minds. We know what to look for.
Yep.
Yeah, and things like that. Yeah.
So walk me through, like, you, before getting to Ivy, you reached out to a counselor, didn't like
Yeah.
what they did. You reached out to an alumni, and they sort of guided you through the process.
So it was multiple, like, it was a very confusing ride for me, and I was actually let down. It was like an emotional roller coaster, that like an imposter syndrome. Like, do I deserve it? Should I apply for it? Like, even if I get in, like, am I the right fit for it or not? So I was very confused at what should I be doing. So first I reached out to a counselor that didn't charge me anything, and then they were pushing me to go to like different colleges and like do multiple programs where they obviously earn commissions out of. So I was like, am I sure that I want to do a diploma? Is that the right value addition for me? And then I was like, no. And even my family, my sister was like, no, you shouldn't be doing this. And then I was like, okay. And then luckily COVID hit, and I was like, okay, let's extend the plans. Like, let's defer the plan, because I didn't want to do something virtual after paying so much, right? So then I decided that, okay, I'll wait for a bit. And then by that time, I had like almost 2 years of full-time work experience with like multinational companies. So I was like, okay, now let's do a proper degree. I also had my own savings by then. So then I reached out to another counselor who was someone who would actually ask you to pay for their counseling services. And then they recommended that Ivy Business School is something that you should be trying. So I definitely started like analyzing the schools and everything. And then they told me you should apply for this university. I applied and I got in within like 2 weeks, and everything went smooth enough. And then when I reached Ivy, like after I had my offer letter in November 2020. And
November 2020. When did I get my offer? I got my offer, was it 2020? Because we started in 2021.
yeah,
So, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
so I applied in the first deadline, and I had the
Yeah,
offer.
same here. Okay,
Yeah.
I was in the same boat then.
So I had another year and a half almost. Not
Think.
year and a half, because our program starts in January, like the international business
Oh, yeah,
program.
IB. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So I had more than a year to actually start my program. And then I was actually trying to save up more and make sure that I was able to pay for the further semesters that once I'm there, right? So I got into Ivy, and then again, I became the president as well. I stood up for the elections, and then that was an amazing experience. So a lot of students started reaching out to me from that, right? Like, because Ivy also posted about me on their socials. So a lot of students started reaching out to me. That's Siddharth, we really want to like learn how you did what you did, and like, can you guide our journey as well? So that is where the motivation came from. And then because of the time zone difference, because most of the students that were reaching out were from India or Pakistan and the Middle East. So the timing difference, I saw myself taking calls at like 2, 3 a.m. at the night. And I was like, where's this motivation coming from? Like, why am I doing that? And I was like, and I'm happily doing it. So then I realized that this is something that I should start monetizing. But before I actually start monetizing it, why not work with a company that has been doing it? So the company that I hired for my consultation, I went and like joined them as a counselor myself. So now I saw both the sides of the table, as a student who's applying, as a counselor who's helping students. And I saw the gap in the industry. So those were like the professional reasons why I started the business, because now I knew what the industry is lacking. And then on the other side, I also was there as a student. So I saw that how can the student journey be improvised. So that was my reason to actually go ahead and like start as a freelancer first. And then the reason why I launched the Acadway was because it gives more legitimacy first, because we are completely virtual right now. So a lot of parents and like students were like, okay, where's your platform? And then I was like, we don't have anything yet, but these are the counselors that you can talk to. And then we told them that we are definitely building something. And the reason why we came up with the name, the Acadway is short form for building your academic pathway. So academic pathway brings it together
Acadway.
as the Acadway. Yep.
Wow. There's a lot of similarities in my experience as well. I was told by a counselor initially, like, oh,
Yeah.
Ivy is great, but you need X, Y, Z. But then I reached out to an alumni
Okay.
similar to you, and I just used the alumni. Well, when I say use, that sounds pretty mean, but like I'm still good mates with this person, but at the same time, they guided me through like this is how you should go about your application, and it was very different than what the counselors were telling me to do.
Okay.
Because well, and here's the biggest crux of things, right? Like counselors. So I had Anthony Sorella, who's the owner of the studio. He was the first guest on the podcast, and he never went to uni. He had scholarships from all the big schools, I think, from what I remember, but he turned them down. He's like, I don't want to do that path. One of the reasons being when he was growing up in his high school, his counselors were just basically playing around with him in the sense like there was no concrete guidance of this is what you would need to be doing. But then
Right.
his thinking went, I want to go to, let's say, a top business school, but my counselors have never been. They themselves have never gone. So who are they to tell me what to do?
Right.
So with me, when I think of this, I'm like, and the biggest pain point I think you guys solve, in my opinion, is you guys have been there, done that.
Yep.
You've had that experience, right? Versus other counselors, a majority of the counselors who have never been to, let's say, Harvard or Stanford,
Right.
but they don't even sell you the dream of going to Harvard and Stanford, because we'll get into the business model side of things. But they themselves have never been to a top tier university, let alone making someone decide where they want to go purely because of research
Right.
or what they think is the best way to do it. And that's where there's so much compromise in families, etc.
Yep.
So that's one thing I really liked when I was researching into your business is all your counselors have been there, done that,
Right.
rather than having that sort of a, rather than having people who have nothing to show for.
And like while we'll talk about the process of the business maybe later on, like I just think part of it, like we spend a big time and like on figuring out exactly like what they want, because we don't want to have like our own agenda or anything. Like we want to know what they want to study, what their dream school is. Like, is their dream just to come to a different country, or is it to study at the specific school? And we spend a lot of time figuring out what exactly it is that they want, and we want to give that to them. And I think with the other counselors, it's like you were saying, that they kind of have their own agenda and they tell you and do their research and things like that, but they're not actually asking about what the student actually wants. And at the end of the day, like they're the one making the big move and things like that. They should have what they want, and we would take their input and try and give them as best or ideally what they want. Things like that.
What is something that you guys see in the counseling space and you literally, you guys cringe because of it, and you'd be like, we are never going to do that?
Something that we cringe about, that we're falsifying a few facts that are not really true. Like in the books, like the right way to put it would be, let's say someone telling me that you should go to this country and this university because that's what your profile seems worthy of. And then I was like, who are you to decide what a profile is worthy of? Like what we do as a counselor today is like, first we try to understand what a student actually wants. And how I would put that in a, like I was finishing the 3 pillars of the business. First I spoke about people. And then the second one is process, and how we process things are like we reverse engineer it. So for me, I would ask the student, what do you actually want to do? And they would say that, let's say I want to get into like an MBB or a consulting firm, right? So now I would keep that as a goal, and I would see that where they are today. And then university is just a step in that process. So I'll start reverse engineering that someone wants to get into banking, investment banking. So then what's the country that they should be targeting? If they're targeting this country, what's the university that they should be targeting? And what's the industry or the kind of companies that they really want to work for? So we reverse engineer that entire process. And then the third pillar is goal setting and performance management. So coming back to your point, like performance management, like a goal should be to help them get their job. And then performance management would be different, like milestone setup for helping them to reach that goal. So like getting into a university is a milestone. I wouldn't say it's their long-term goal. And to put it in a better way, I would say that first we need to understand that the students are actually relying on us to make their life successful, not to just get them an admit. So that's the first and the foremost thing that for a lot of counselors, I think the most cringy part is that they feel that success for them is getting them into whatever university.
Just get
they
them into the
want.
school and that's
Yeah.
it.
And
Off you
then
go.
they ghost them. Like
Mm.
the journey is done. I mean, it shouldn't be like that. For me, the biggest KPI is not getting them into the university. That conversion isn't my biggest KPI. My KPI is like if they give me 2 or 3 more references. So that is where I know that I actually helped them and like satisfied them in a way that they are actually trusting me. So that trust is very important because let's say once they get into the university, now I've also been providing counseling sessions to these students, how to make the best out of their university life. Then once they're about to graduate, then there's professional counseling as well, how to land your dream job. So these are like add-on services because we are trying to make sure they're successful in their life. They're not just trying to get into the university for that status, or maybe they're updating their LinkedIn profile for that matter.
And Sid touched on something really good as well. And like the whole reason why like he started doing this on his own is freelancing. And the vast majority of the clients that that we've grown it with has been purely referrals because they've just been happy with it. And I think that it's very good evidence that whatever we are doing it's a good job because they're passing it on and we're having a continuous like stream of new students coming in, and it's been purely referral. And that was even before, we're legit with a website and things like that. And I think that says a lot because they were still willing to put their trust into, like in their eyes, it's just some random student studying in Canada who's saying that I can get you in, and they still put their faith. They've still put their faith in the services we're providing. And now that we look a little more legitimate, like I think it's really going to take off because we have that good referral, and then we have also it looks a little more legitimate as well. So.
One of the biggest points of differentiation that I've noticed, and we've spoken about this offline as well, is you guys are with the student through their student lifetime.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? It's a cycle, and you're in that throughout. For example, if I'm getting into university, I'm looking to get into university, you guys will help me, or from what my understanding is, you'll help me, you'll provide counsel based on what I want, right? So you reverse engineer that process.
Right.
You help me get into where I feel I'd be best placed. But once I get into the university, let's say Ivy in this case, you'll still be like, hey, we have these add-on services, which is like, we'll help you find a job as well.
Yep.
But let's say I'm a foreign student who's moving to Canada, right? From let's say wherever, you also help in that moving process.
Yep.
Now that could be as a coach in terms of a psychological aspect, like a life coach perspective. Is that correct?
Yep.
So talk to me more about that. Like, how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, it's funny. I just remembered something. So there's a PDF that we have that's called like the package list, and it actually has like an item called toothbrush as well. So we are providing them literally like, I won't say spoon feeding because people are mature enough, but we're making sure they have all
bases covered.
Yeah, like they have actually all the things covered when like they shouldn't come abroad and be like, okay, I forgot this, or they shouldn't come abroad and be like, oh shit, like this is something that I should have done before coming, right? So this is something that we make sure that their journey is as smooth as possible. So I think one thing that like I'm pursuing a positive psychology course when it's starting.
Positive psychology?
Yeah.
Okay.
So positive psychology is like, let's say today you're doing great in your life and you're not depressed, or like that's like clinical psychology that goes completely towards like negative kind of a tone. But positive psychology is where you're doing great in your life. You don't have any like I would say mental issues or anything of that sort. But positive psychology is more like, now how do you excel from the point where you are today and you're happy, but how do you become happier? So that's positive psychology, and people who do that become a life coach. So I think these are the things that I need on my profile right now because I come from a business background. And I saw that there's a very big psychological part in this industry. And I do need to understand what people are actually feeling emotionally as well, to make sure that I'm guiding them in a way that they understand where am I coming from as well.
Yeah. And then I think what I like to come in with is a lot of people have the tendency when they go into a new environment is you seek like comfort. And what happens is when you go you start a program in a different country, like maybe you're too afraid to go out to that orientation week or go meet people or go network and things like that. And I find like, especially like our, maybe not so much for the master's students, but the undergraduates, like this is the first time that they're leaving to go study anywhere, let alone a different country. And I find like they seek that comfort, and you have to let them know that there's going to be these opportunities that you need to go and take. You need to go join that sports team. You need to go out to the orientation week and things like that. You need to go, and it's going to help you grow. And while it's a challenge, so is moving abroad, and you're doing it, and you need to like fulfill that challenge. And that's kind of where I come in. I'm letting them know, don't waste this opportunity. You're putting in all this time, money, and effort to go away. You need to make the most out of it, if you will. And I found that in moments for myself where I remember studying in Norway. It was brand new, it was like new, expensive, all this kind of stuff like that. And I was very hesitant to kind of break out of my shell. And once I did, like it was a lot better. And I wish someone like had told me that. And then now we're doing it in more of a professional sense. But it'd be nice to have someone tell you that, and that everything's going to be okay. And then if you don't do this, you're wasting the opportunity.
Yep. And then coming back to your point that how do we actually make that process smooth? So obviously first we share a checklist of the items they would need. And obviously the visa consultation, we don't provide the visa consultation right now, but we do have resources and connections to help them connect with different visa counselors as well. Then comes the biggest challenge is accommodation. Then over there, what we do is that we provide them the ways as to how you can find an accommodation before you reach your destination country, right? So for that, like Facebook.
And ensuring it's legitimate as well, because there's a huge industry of people being scammed. Even for our program, a lot of the students in our batch were like international students, and a lot of them, before I even met them, had like reached out to me and asked me like, is this like apartment like real?
Legit?
Is this legit? Or like, are these just like stock photos and stuff like that? While not part of the business, the point is that you kind of need someone who's just has your back in that sense. And that's where, and having our experience, like we're able to tell like if this is a scam or not, if they're going to ask like, okay, like mail the check before you even like sign the lease or anything, things like that. Like it's clearly a scam.
So I'm curious, you say accommodation was one of the biggest ones, but why? Because if you're an undergrad student, you would usually go into like halls or dorms, right? But master students, I get it. You might have to have, and I understand that portion, because when I moved here for my master's, my idea was, okay, I need to find a Canadian roommate who knows the lay of the land, right? It's just the easiest way to do it, rather than, sharing a room with someone, an apartment with someone else. Because again, I just want to know the lay of the land as soon as possible. And the best way to do it is go local.
Yeah.
Right.
But why is accommodation like, I didn't know about these scams. I wasn't aware of it.
Even even as a like Canadian student, when I was like every year I like moved to a different residence, and then you just notice things where they're like just like the photos. So like I like in London where Ivy is, like I would
London,
see, like,
Ontario.
Ontario, yes, not the afterthought London is. Like I knew where this, like I saw the address, I knew what the apartment was, and the photo, like it looked like they were like the photo was taken in like New York City with the skyline, and I was like, this is fake. Or there's sometimes where they want you to like wire transfer the money or something like that. Like that's just not how it is. Like we in Canada, like we just do interact, or I could write you a check, but I'm not gonna do that before I actually see the place and things like that. And the trouble, like for me, is living in London, I can actually make that argument to go see the place. But if you're coming from a different country, you can't fly over just to visit the apartment to see if you like it or not. And you're kind of taking it on blind faith. And that's where the scam comes in, is that they're just hoping that it's real. And this happens in like many countries as well. And that's, anyways, that's why accommodation is so bad, is because you have to figure it out abroad, and you're just kind of hoping that it's real. And in some cases it's not, and they get taken advantage of.
Yep.
So how do you guys then go? What's the process for accommodation then?
So first, answering your question around the undergrad students, right? A lot of them won't want to move to a dorm or university-specific accommodation because that's more expensive. If you live on the outskirts, that's cheaper, right? So that's one way to look at it. So they would say that might as well find something outside of the university space, because we want to find don't want to pay that much and like reduce, because the international fee is like at least 3 to 4 times.
But you're seeing a demand for international students to pick external residences.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
Even I picked an external residence, right?
In your undergrad?
No, not my
Oh.
undergrad, for my master's.
Yeah,
But they do
masters,
have master's accommodation. They don't call it master's; they call it senior high.
Yeah, just it's the old. It's the
I don't
old-
like that.
It's the old
Yeah.
students.
I don't
yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So it's just like third year and above,
Mm,
right? And it could be anyone, master's or PhD students or anyone. So I picked up a place, and it was very interesting. It said this place has like 5 rooms, and it was like a small hut, like the place that we had in our first semester. I was like, how does that work? I didn't know that there were rooms in the basement, and then there were like
Shady.
multiple. Yeah, so that was interesting. I was like, are we sure this is legit? Like, how can this place have like 5 rooms? And then I don't think there was a broker or anyone, but someone did a video call with us, and we also asked one of our friends to go check it out just for the legitimacy purposes, and then it worked out for us.
Yeah.
And it was like we ended up paying like 700 a month, which was pretty decent. And I'm pretty sure a dorm, like a university accommodation, would have been somewhere close to 1,200
Yeah.
or 1,500.
So we just kind of do like that kind of like with the video call and making sure it's like, because a lot of times like they're just excited to come, they find a place and they're kind of very trigger happy about just, okay, we'll take my money, I have this place, and they come, and then there's like it's not real, and then they've lost that money, and they also have no place to stay, and they're in a brand new country alone. So we,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyways, I just find it as like kind of what you said is like you wanted like the local, you want like boots on the ground. We're kind of in that sense is like we're just we're ensuring that like what you're getting is what you're getting.
Something funny. I recently got scammed, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
So
Let's share it.
last year
What
I
happened?
was applying for my US visa.
yeah.
Applied in June last year, and then I got an appointment for Jan 2026. So year and a half long waiting time for your interview. And I was like, I don't think I can wait that long. And then I saw like an advertisement on Instagram which said that you want early US visa appointment, reach out to us.
Come on,
You
say
got it
that.
off Instagram.
Come on,
See,
Bro, like,
this is why. Okay.
I was so sensitive about that. Like, I really need to go to the States.
You just
Now-
wanted it.
Yeah, then
Get
I
it
reached
done.
out to them, and then this guy took my credentials and changed the password. I was like, okay. And then he sent me a screenshot that your date has been changed to next month. I was like, I still don't trust you. Can you send me a screen recording? And I don't know how this guy actually sent me a screen recording of my profile saying that your date is 12th of February now. I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then I paid him. I paid him like $200 first, and then he goes like, okay, now for your credentials, you need to reach out to this person. So I reached out to another person, and this guy goes like, if you need your credentials back, you need to pay $100 more. And I was like, interesting. And I paid him $100 more, and then I got my credentials back, and it was the same date. It was still Jan 2026, and I was like, okay, I got
Oh,
scammed.
God.
And then they blocked me, and I was like, okay, that's sad.
Who knew the Instagram ads were
Who knew?
scammy?
Yeah, so
Oh man. But I want to get into this idea, like discussing this tougher side, which is the mental health side of things and cultural shock that students. So all 3 of us have studied abroad
Yep.
to some extent, right? It is a very tough thing to do. Personally speaking, I think I've moved around quite a bit, so I don't feel it as much, but I still feel it. I just have mechanisms to cope with it. But for a lot of times, like your personal experiences, right? You moved from India to Canada.
Yep.
From Canada went to Norway and then China as well. China is a crazy shift.
yeah.
Like, how was that for you?
Yeah, that was, and what's crazy enough is like that was in my undergrad. I had a
Yeah.
paid research project, and I was doing water engineering in mainland China, and that was my first time actually ever leaving the country, and
As in,
like
Ever,
ever, like
like
ever.
international.
It was just
Wow.
like it was like the first time like taking
okay,
an airplane and all those like kind of things like that. It was just it was a big shift, and
you could have gone to like
The-
Turks and
yeah.
Caicos, man. What do you mean in China?
yeah. But what actually the biggest challenge was is that this was like a very independent project, but I was told that when I go, I would have a few like lab assistants who are like fluent in English. And what I learned very quickly is like being fluent in English like abroad more means like single words, because anytime you're saying more than one word together, like it's not that they don't know it, just gets lost in translation. And now add that into like speaking in engineering terms, it goes out the window. So I had to like figure out how to use single words to communicate, because you have to use like that one word that's going to get your point across. And in terms of culture shock, like, yeah, it was absolutely, it was very shocking. Like, I'm also like allergic to shellfish and fish and in general, and there's fish oil and stuff and everything. And I was very, I got sick, like I got sick like a lot.
How long were you there?
I was there for 3 months. I was doing a project for 3 months, and it was the summer too. And it was also kind of right before they had tackled their pollution problem. So there was some days like you couldn't go outside.
How
And
bad does it get? Like,
it's very, like, the first 2 weeks I was there, like I didn't see the stars, and it wasn't that it was cloudy. It was just so hazy. And while what was cool about the project is that I actually had to do work in the like rural parts, like just out on the fringes of like the major part of the city. And because just the way the payments worked, it would only cover the bus. So I was taking like the Chinese bus to go out to these places. And the culture shock was also interesting too, because in a lot of cases, like, they'd never seen a Canadian before. And people come up almost like excited, and they'll take a photo with you. They'll practice their English. And that was kind of the nice part of the culture shock, is that you get to, it's also like new for them as well, and you get to be with them. But in terms for you talking about like coping mechanisms,
How did you bridge that, right? Like that shock that you face.
so what I think is that universities are getting better at it, because before I had gone away to do this, it was funding through my tax. It was like a very big research organization. They make you take this essentially like a mini course that talks about the different things like that, and actually show like a graph that if you think of like your time in the country and your happiness, when you first get there, everything is super exciting because it's all brand new and exciting, and then there's a huge drop because you miss the things you want. Like, I love salt and vinegar chips. They have Lay's in China, but it's like squid flavored.
No
It's
salt and vinegar.
yogurt flavored. The only time
Yogurt flavored chips.
Yogurt flavor, yes. And then the if you want plain potato chips, it's called American flavored potato chips. Yeah, American flavor, just regular
what about
potatoes.
ketchup?
Just and small things like that. And anyway, so you drop off, and then eventually it's kind of a slow hike back up. You get used to it, and then as you're talking about, you've done it many times. I think over time maybe you don't get used to it, but it's more that you're like expecting it, and then you find things like you just bring things that you would enjoy. The hardest thing in China as well was like all I wanted to do was watch The Office, and China has
they have a ban.
so
or
I,
like
and I
they
didn't
have
have
their
I
own.
didn't have a VPN, and I remember like almost crying because I had that long flight. All I wanted to do was go to my room, watch The Office, and when I click it on my phone, it's been like blocked out, and like that was like heartbreaking for me because I just wanted like one piece of comfort. But now next time I go abroad, I have my VPN. I bring some snacks that I like. I make sure I can, if I can call someone, make sure they're up and things like that. But the first time is like always the hardest, and I think that's where we come in, where you let them know that, because if you don't let them know that, they're experiencing it for the first time. They don't know what's going on.
You might want to speak about Thailand as well, right? Because that was another cultural difference for you when you were there for your internship.
In what way? Sorry.
Like, you can speak about like the language barrier over there.
Oh yeah. Right? So a part of our program is, you were in IB too, weren't you?
IB? No. I did
BA.
digital management.
Okay.
Yeah.
So part of our program, there's like 3 different streams, and Sid and I, like, we were in international business, and so from my experience in China, like, I wanted to go abroad. Now I was kind of like hooked. So I specifically picked this program because it's a mandatory component to do an internship abroad, and luckily him and I got to go to Thailand, and I think it was probably maybe the least challenging of the places I've been, but there is definitely like a language barrier. And another class like we have, it talks about kind of working with different cultures, because like the work ethic in Canada is very different than in China, for example, or Thailand. And you have to like learn to adapt and understand it, and maybe be more reserved in the way you communicate and say things and things like that. But I found it was a very good experience, because they were just as open as I was to learning and working together.
Yep. And for my experience when I moved here, definitely a big cultural shock for me. Like, I was told that there are going to be people from 16 different cultures throughout the entire MSc program.
Yeah.
And not just our classroom, but the entire MSc program. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then I decided on running for the elections. So for me, it was kind of challenging that how do I reach out to different people from different cultures in terms of how do I communicate with them? Because some people are very like jolly and they're just like,
Yeah, there's so many like these
Ye-
cultural nuances, right? So
yeah,
y- I know in India, for example, you could just be friendly with anyone, kind
Yeah.
of a thing. Here it's like, and then you're like, oh, how do I approach this person? Is it a bit more formal, a bit
Yeah.
informal? Like, what's the right way to do it?
exactly. So I don't know if you remember this, that I used to hug everyone when it was the first
Yes.
semester, and then some people used to take a step back, and then I noticed it. At first, I was like, maybe they don't like me, but then I realized that this is not the liking part. This is the cultural gap, and then how we train our like clients or students for that matter is also by telling them that you shouldn't be let down if you see someone not liking how you're acting, or just be more open and be more civil in a way that you're trying to understand where they're coming from and why they're acting in a certain way. So that's very important. And then I feel that like in our future plan, we also have this model that we are thinking of, that having like psychologists on board, so that once someone moves abroad, we are also providing them therapy in a way that how to settle in a new country.
It is tough, right? Like homesickness. I have a stat over here. So
Yep.
homesickness affects roughly 70% of students early on. And then journaling and structured reflection can actually cut symptoms by roughly 30%. And this was through the Journal of International Students in 2023. It is such a huge thing, right? Like homesickness. And I'm sure in China you felt that, or like even in living in Canada, although Canada has a huge Indian population, you still,
Yep.
did you feel homesickness, or was that a,
I definitely felt it because in India we don't like really like wash our own clothes or like do our own dishes, and then
okay.
there was a lot of difference in terms of the independence, and then you doing your own thing and trying to stand up for yourself, right? Like in India, you have a driver, and then you can go wherever you want, and then you can. There's a maid coming who's gonna like clean up your house and like do like set up everything, and every morning is a new fresh day for you. But here you have to manage
Do
your
it
time.
yourself.
Was
Do
it?
it yourself.
Talk to me. First time you had a vacuum cleaner. How did that feel?
Vacuum cleaner
I'm
was
just
fine.
kidding.
I think I hate doing the dishes. And then the first house that we had, there wasn't a dishwasher, and I was like, okay. And trust me, after two like semesters, I switched to disposals completely.
No
And then
way.
I
As a
realized
sustainability
that,
guy, I
and
really
then
appreciate
realized,
that.
Yeah, after
Jeez.
2 weeks,
Yeah.
I realized that after 2 weeks of doing the recycling,
Yeah.
then I realized that okay, this is not good for the environment. Then I switched back, and I
It's very,
became,
it's very noble of you,
became-
Sid.
I guess it's similar to cooking as well, right? Like
yeah.
cooking, you said in India, like, oh, not even India, any country, when we're kids, usually like
Home
food's
cooked
just
meals
cooked,
brings
right?
you-
Like at
yeah.
home, like you come back from football
Yeah.
practice or whatever. Yeah, mom's made dinner, dad's made dinner, someone's made dinner, and then you're like,
Yeah.
cool. And then the idea, like that's one big pain point for me. Right now, I'm getting used to it even more. But it's like cooking. Oh my God. I'm a hazard to the kitchen. I'm bound to get injured if I'm cooking, basically.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, I just cannot be bothered after a long day's work. I'm just going to get, I don't know, Uber Eats or try to get
Yeah.
something relatively healthy, but same thing, but with disposable cutlet.
I don't know, man. I
That's
think you're
pretty
just-
funny.
That's
Yeah.
But I guess a lot of students do go through that, right?
Yeah.
So with your clients, with students, let's say they've gotten into university and stuff, do you and you're doing positive psychology on the side.
Right.
At what point do you guys, like, how do you teach students the early signs of having these mental troubles? And how do you teach them the coping mechanisms? Like, what's that process like for you guys?
I think like how I deal with it is like I'm very direct, that I tell them that it's all glitter the way you see it on my Instagram.
It's not Instagram and
Yeah, it's not your LinkedIn.
it's not lattes
profile,
and,
yeah.
you know?
It's more about the fact that now you'll be standing up for yourself, and then you can't really even talk about your hardships with your parents, because in a way you're also kind of making them feel bad that they sent you abroad, and they're going to be sad about how's my kid doing. And then a lot of students talk to me about that I really can't speak to my parents about
Yeah.
this. I tell them that, again, you signed up for this. There's a lot of financial investment, emotional investment. I think the biggest investment is time. Like, this time won't come back. Like, you won't do another master's again. You might do like a PhD, but then doing another master's, you won't do that. And now you've taken this decision. Make sure you're doing your best. And there are going to be days where you're going to be feeling low, and go through those days. Don't like suppress your feelings. Go through them. And then, but when you rise up, never fall back there again.
Yeah. And like my point forward is that, like, I don't think, like, maybe you have with clients, but I haven't had a client yet who's gone abroad and had that. But what I always do for everyone is, like, it's more like letting them know like what to expect.
Yeah.
Because I find that if they're not ready, if they're not expecting it, like, they might feel like actually they have made a mistake. But it brings a little bit ease to know, like, this is something that's going to happen. Like, you need to come with a way to power through it and get through it. And to your point about not doing a master's again, like, we differ on this, but I'm a big believer. I think everyone, like, it should have one chance to study abroad, almost as like compulsory. Because like the reason I'm trying to make is that, the point I'm trying to make is that, like, you can always go back, but you can't go back in time to do it again.
Yeah.
Like, if you absolutely don't like it, like, you can always go back and not do it. But if you just quit just the first time of the struggle, you can't go back in time and redo it for the most part. Like, can you imagine starting an undergrad right now? Like, I could never do that right now. And if I didn't do it like back when I did it, I don't think I would ever have done it. So I always just think that you can always go back, and if you really don't like it, but you can't go back in time to do it.
Yeah, that's one thing you can never get back. And there's a quote, it's which is pretty simple, right? You want to get comfortable being uncomfortable, and the earlier you do it, the better the rewards are down the line as well.
But then again, you need to be in that mindset.
Exactly.
So, coming to your point, I feel that if you're not ready, if you're taking this step under pressure because your family wants you to go abroad for that Western degree, or your cousin or your sibling did that, if you're doing that under pressure, then first you need to be mentally prepared for it. That I want to be in that uncomfortable space, and I want to step out of my comfort zone to make sure I'm growing as a person. But if you're not, because I see a lot of people wasting their time, money, energy, and everything, and then going back even mid-program. And that's like the worst, even for their finances, even for their family, and that's adding zero value.
So just on that, where's your biggest demographic from?
I would say India, Pakistan, and Middle East.
So the subcontinent and Middle East, right?
Asia-centric.
So being Indian myself, one of the biggest things, what are you seeing? So you said parental or like family pressure to send the kids abroad. Is that a huge thing you're noticing?
So that's a huge thing for students who are in high school. Because the ones who are applying for the masters, they are
different.
mature.
Slightly different.
They're in a different like headspace altogether, right?
Yeah.
For the ones who are applying for the undergrad, if they see a pattern, like they want their kids to chase a Western degree, they would pressurize them that after 12th grade, you should go abroad. And then the question that I ask their parents is that, where do you want to send them? If they say the US, I tell them that this is like 17-hour long journey. Now, tomorrow, are you sure that your kid's ready? And he is like more sort of, is he extroverted or not? Or is he someone who like is a mama's boy or something like that, right? Just to make sure that if he's out of his comfort space, is he going to be okay?
You know what's crazy? And this is the hypocrisy in all of this, and which is why one of the biggest reasons why I have you on as guests today is I love India.
Yep.
But sometimes this is the hypocrisy. Indian parents, not all, and this is just my personal opinion, they want to send the kids outside, all right? Let's say to Canada. Okay, the kid goes and he picks up Canadian traits to some extent, or personality, or like, whatever that might be. But then the parents go and say, oh, but you're Indian, be Indian. So then my point then becomes, well, if you wanted to send your kid abroad, no shit, it's going to happen that they're going to adopt, cultural practices from that country.
Yeah. Right.
How can you just sit there and be like, hey, you have to be fully Indian or fully from Pakistani, wherever you're from, Middle Eastern. But yeah, go do well abroad. but don't become like them. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. How does that work? And then my question to you, sorry, this is just like me just
Gotta
Yeah,
rant.
go
ranting
ahead.
off
Yeah.
because I get sick and tired of seeing people do that. And I'm like,
Right.
how can you have expectation? Why are you sending them abroad in the first place if you want them to be culturally true to where they're from? I understand that. So if you want to do that, there are other ways you can educate your children, right? In terms of when they're growing up and stuff, how important culture is, and stay grounded to your roots. I understand that. But then forcing them abroad and then asking them to be someone who they're not at the end of the day is very hypocritical in my opinion. But my question to you,
I would say that's another uncomfortable space that
it's huge,
you're in, right?
massive.
And then if you took that decision and you're standing by the fact that you want to adapt to a new country's culture,
But isn't that bound to happen?
sorry?
Isn't that bound to happen if you move to a different country?
Yeah, I mean, again, like there might be certain nitpicking on a few things
Yeah.
that parents might be doing, right? And then if you're trying to stand against them, then you should be very clear about the fact that, again, this is a very uncomfortable space for you. And then you have to go against them because, again, it's your decision that you took. But again, it doesn't necessarily have to be disrespectful.
No.
It's just have to be in a way that you need to make them understand where you're coming from and how you're changing. And I think with time, even parents would understand. They would never want anything bad for you. So I feel this is what I tell the parents as well as like the students, that they're not looking from a perspective that they're trying to push something on you. They just haven't seen the other side of the story, right?
Yeah.
Where you have been, they have not seen that life, and you just need to explain it to them, or maybe just stick with yourself, and then with time things are going to settle down.
So my question, parents act like micro Instagram influencers in this. They're hidden,
Yeah.
but they have a huge part to play, right, in this counseling space. What would you tell these parents who put so much pressure on the kids to go study abroad? Like, if you were to give them a message, what would that be?
So before actually guiding the parents to before guiding the parents how they should be targeting the countries, what I usually do with the parents of undergrad students, like who are targeting undergrad universities, I give them hypothetical situations. That what if this happens? Is your kid gonna be okay with this? Like, let's say tomorrow, if they are missing like their home a lot and they're missing family a lot, are you gonna be that sensitive that you're gonna be like you would want them to fly out right away? Then if that's the case, then move to Dubai, move to Singapore. But if you're someone who is okay with the fact that they're like you trust your child enough and you're confident enough that he or she is going to be okay when they're abroad, and then you're targeting the countries which are more like North American, which are like far away, then you can target those as well. Again, coming to the point that what message I would give the parents, I would say that I would first of all educate them, as you said, more about the cultural differences, that every country is different and every person is also very different. So I don't know how your student or how your child is going to be adapting to the new culture, but you need to be ready about the fact that they're going to change as a person. Now you won't be controlling them or being around them. You don't know what they're doing 24/7. So you need to make sure you're also coming with an open mindset, just to make sure you're supporting your child through the journey and not pressurizing them in a way that they're not being successful through their journey abroad.
I just think they should be doing it for the right reason. Like, why do you want your loved one to go abroad and do this? And it should be for the right reason. Like, do you want them just to have the prestige of studying at a Western university, or do you want them to actually have a fulfilling career and things like that? Do you think they can actually mentally handle doing it? Can you also mentally handle having them go away and possibly change? Like, I think more like deeper questions like that need to be asked, because if it's just purely just to get a fancy degree, that's not the right way to do it.
Do you think it's a stigma? Sorry, yeah, go. No,
I just had more of a joke. Is that
Yeah.
luckily, like what I found with Sid is that he has like had positive Canadian traits passed off on him. This guy says sorry. This guy says thank
Sorry.
you, and he shows up on time now.
Yeah.
That was my biggest beef with.
Yeah.
That was sorry.
This
That's
one
what I was
time,
thinking. Is he
I
had,
asked him,
yeah.
get a pack of 6 beers. And this guy goes like, no, please. No, like, can you get me a pack of 6 beers? You're just ordering me. And I was like, that's normal. Then again, that was a cultural gap,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
like in back in like our country, we will just be like, can you just like please grab a bag of 6 beers? But here it's more like being nice and more in a questioning format.
Yeah.
And just another point for that, like it reminds me like it was kind of very similar like in China when I was there. Like I was always like saying like thank you because hold the door open for me, thank you. They got me like probably same thing, got me some beers, thank you, and like they would literally be like, why are you like enough? Stop thanking like enough.
Yeah.
And I was like I'm too nice like for this culture. So
Yeah, the funniest thing that happened with me in the first semester at Ivy was I was just walking by, and it was like a Canadian person who was also at Ivy, and then he just said that, hey, how's it going? And I thought he was trying to start a conversation, and I stopped there and I was like, hi, it's going pretty great.
Like
Just
a-
started with myself.
like a real guy.
And I thought, okay, that was a small talk greeting. It's like, okay.
No, I know. So that happened to me
That's funny.
in England. I remember different. So within England, you have different cultures as well. In different cities, it's a bit different, right? So some of them will be like, "How's it going, mate?" Or sometimes they'll be like, "What are you saying?"
Yeah, what you saying?
But someone asked me, "What are you saying?" And I'd never heard this before, and I just
It's
went.
like I'm not saying anything.
I just said, I didn't say anything, man. And he looks at me like, what? I'm like, what? And we just like look back and forth awkwardly. And he's like, dude, I'm asking you, how are you? I'm like, oh, I'm good, thanks, mate.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
And it's just small nuances.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was
But
pretty
let's
funny.
talk about yours, because you've been to multiple countries,
Yeah.
right? So if you can like walk us through your journey. Because
Yeah. So I was born in India, and then we moved to Australia when I was 2 months. From there, I moved to Singapore to India, India to Saudi Arabia,
Okay.
Saudi Arabia to the UAE and Abu Dhabi, from the UAE to England. So I did majority of my schooling, I would say, between Saudi Arabia, UAE, England. And in England, I did my undergrad. And then during COVID,
Yeah.
just hopped over the Atlantic to
Sorry
Canada.
to cut
for
you
my
there. How
masters.
old are you right now?
26.
And so most years of your life, what country have you lived?
Yeah, what do you
Um,
affiliate with most?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's been a very tricky question to answer, because you become like a jack of all trades, right? But master of none to an extent. It's so where I was, I spent 7 years in the UAE, almost close to 7 as well in England. So it's like very equal, I would
Okay.
say, give or take. A lot of my personality is a blend of, I could adapt wherever I want, and I know how to do it. So that's a skill I've learned. So when I'm with like Englishmen, it's pretty easy to do. When I'm with like Middle Eastern people, so at Ivy, you must have seen a lot of my friends like within digital management and stuff were like Middle Eastern or of like Middle Eastern origin. I could do that like Habibi, like, it's very good, and I love it, and I can speak shwa shwa Arabiya, like a little bit of Arabic as well. So I understand when they speak with each other. Similarly, like Australia, a lot of cricket was a huge part of my life. So through that, Australia, England, Middle East, India, like I understand those. But where I resonate with the most, to answer your question, I think it's not one country, it's a multiple. And the biggest ones I would say are England, India, Middle East, and Australia, for sure. So it's like, it's very hard to pick one, because all of them make me who I am.
Yeah. In terms of let's speak about your education. You've also started in multiple countries, right? So where do you think it was toughest for you to actually adapt?
Yeah, it's a very good question. No one's asked me that before, especially on the podcast.
Yeah.
But my hardest move, so I was 16, I think, when I moved to boarding school in England. But I did it, and on paper, that should have been the hardest, because 15, 16-year-old moving to a new country relatively. I'd been going to England back and forth every year for cricket, every summer. But that on paper would have been my toughest, because in England, the thing is, you're surrounded with locals in your boarding school, right? I went to private school, but as a boarding student, you have locals pretty much around you. But at the same time, you have these cultural differences that you have to adapt. So I was in the countryside, very different than actually living in London or Manchester and stuff. And then the sunset, the weather was very different. In the UAE, you have like sun throughout the year. In England during the winters, 4 o'clock, 4:30, pitch dark. And then that was I'm like, what the heck is this? So on paper, that should have been the toughest, but I loved it because I was there for a reason, which was my purpose back then, cricket. I was like, I don't care. This is all cool. I'm so privileged. So I always had gratitude, I would say. Then I did my undergrad at Loughborough University. Again, loved my time. My hardest was actually moving to Canada.
Right.
Yeah. I found it, I don't know why. I guess a part of me never wanted to leave England in hindsight. I moved here, I think, I was sold the American dream. Well, America, North America, same thing.
Yep.
But I really struggled with adapting here for some reason. It struggled. I don't know why.
Was it more in the academic space or your personal life?
Personal life. Okay. I would say academically, my mindset was very straightforward from the beginning. It's like university, you can get education from anywhere, right? And on paper, the stuff like the theory that you learn you can learn anywhere. But I think the thing with Ivy was the case-based methodology. That was huge for me. I'd rather make a $5 million mistake hypothetically than in real life. Right. I'm not dealing with that kind of numbers right now, but that was the idea. But more so from the personality side of things, that was a little bit of a struggle here because I would have like my British slangs, for example, Australian slangs, right? And people here would just be like, what? So for example, at work the other day, in my corporate job. So a lot of times in England, it's like, if I ask you a question, what do you reckon, mate? Do you reckon it was good? Or like, do you rate it? As in, is it good?
Yeah. I don't even think I heard that one before.
Yeah, it's like, let's say you're having, you're eating like food from a restaurant. I'll be like, oh, do you rate it, mate? It's like, oh, do you recommend it? Like, should I also go grab it kind of thing? So my coworker got something and I was like, oh, do you rate that? I think it was a coffee or something. And she goes, I'd rate it a 8 out of 10. I was like, no.
Oh, she gave like a real rating.
I was like, that's not my question. But I was like, do you rate it? She's like, but you asked me to rate it, right? I was like, no, fair play. But I'm asking, is it good? And she's like, why'd you ask me to rate it? I was like, no. Okay, let's start again. Is it good? So it's like small nuances like that. Or when I say, what do you reckon? Or like, I reckon it's good. Sorry, and what? And they'd just be like, and what? I was like, no, that's it. I reckon it's good. So like that was a very interesting thing that I realized. But yeah, I think, take it with a pinch of salt because when you're in your mid-20s, early 20s, when you first start working, this is my first job was in Canada, has been in Canada. So that's a very different mindset. You had a couple of years work experience prior, right? This was my first, and all I knew up until this point was cricket. That's it. I didn't know anything about the corporate world, so to say. I'd heard things, but I never knew. And that was, I think, that mixed with a new country, so there was like a lot of variables put together that kind of just created this storm of.
And you're learning on the go, right? Like
yeah. And I love it. I love a good challenge, but mentally it wore me down quite a bit.
Yeah, but the reason why I asked you this question was it academic space or your personal space? Because a lot of, like, when you're in high school, it's like a mixed kind of a crowd, right? There are backbenchers, there are people who study, there are people who don't study, there are people who are good in sports. So mixed crowd, right? And then from your high school, you move to undergrad. So there's some filtration. If you scored well, then you go to like a top tier school and then you study from there. But when you do your master's, now everybody's bringing something on the table.
Yeah.
So it gets very competitive. And a lot of students I see, they face issues with the fact that, they don't feel confident enough to speak up in the class. Like during Ivy, let's speak about
that's
Ivy
a very
today,
good point.
Right? In Ivy, a lot of students won't speak up because they felt that first, maybe they were just introverted. But the second, again, imposter syndrome. Am I good enough? If I speak something, are people going to make fun of me or not? Right? So that was definitely there with a lot of students, even like the colleagues. And a lot of students that are my clients now, they reach out to me that, how do I tackle this? Then I tell them that take it as a positive competition. Even if you see jealousy, then take it in a positive way. Because now you're sitting in a class where people are definitely bringing something to the table. They didn't make it to such a good top tier business school without doing anything. So it is going to be competitive.
I like that because And to your point, academically, did I struggle at Ivy? No, but imposter syndrome, 100%.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I've spoken a lot about on this podcast is me having this identity as a cricketer, which I'm not, but I still feel like I am because that was majority of my life. So 26, a good 17 out of that was cricket. That's it.
Right.
So to your point as well is high school, it's like a pyramid, right? At the bottom, pretty wide. You have a lot. Then you move up. Undergrad, okay, filters out.
Yeah.
But then you go to a top business school, and I give huge kudos to Ivy. I think the way they run things,
Yep.
that classroom, the case-based methodology, it's intimidating. It is.
It's
And I'll tell you,
different.
I had Hendreen Hussain on the show. Now you've met Hendreen. You guys know Hendreen.
Yep.
Imagine going up against him in a class, like arguing with that man. I love Hendreen, but arguing with Hendreen is like basically speaking to a wall sometimes because it is a very hard thing to do. So you're up against the top crop. And when you're in that class and you're speaking to a professor asks a question and you have people like him around, and majority of them are very high performers.
Right.
You're like, shit, if I mess this up, I'm gonna be looked at as a clown. But here's a fun fact. No one gives a flying fuck.
Yep. Exactly.
No one does. But I didn't realize that initially. And it took me a little bit of time to understand that.
Yeah.
But once I understood that, I was like, do you know what? Everyone, and I think friendships become a huge part.
Yeah.
So if let's say we're in the same class, which we were a couple of times, let's say you muck up. Okay.
Yeah.
And I just go like, dude, that's fine. It's okay. But you tried.
Exactly.
Fair play. Then you're like, okay, no issues. And for me, that initially I was a little bit very skeptical and very hesitant to sort of raise my hand and speak. And by the end of Ivy, I was like, I just don't care. You get to a point where you're like, do you know what, whatever I say, no, because everyone's thinking, what would other people think of me? Everyone thinks that.
Yep.
But no one
So
cares.
that's
the only person that cares is
exactly. But it's the mind games.
It's a mind game. It's intimidating, right?
It is very intimidating.
what I was gonna say is like I kind of feel the opposite of you guys in the program. I think there
Interesting.
was too many people talking, but it was like nothing of like value because the way and I mean that in the sense like you had to talk to get your grade.
There was a lot of
And what I think that prepared me for is like because also like I'm not from a business background either. Like going to Ivy was my first like foray into business, and so like I remember the biggest difference like taking those engineering classes where you're purely going in and learning the things, and like the only time someone asks a question and talks is when they don't get something. But then you go to business school and like they want to do all these discussions and hashing everything out and things like that, and I just find that I only wanted to talk. I didn't talk as much because I didn't want to say anything that didn't have any value. And I found that a lot of people, just because you talk a lot doesn't mean that it actually adds up to things like that.
valid.
Yeah.
But now that I work in consulting and you guys as well, I see why it actually helps. Because let's say you're in a boardroom, right? You have your partners on one side and let's say senior cons, managers, higher management on the other side. And I've had situations where my partner's gone literally like they're presenting in person to the client. And because as a consultant, you do a lot of the groundwork, you create the stuff. And they would just go like, Sach, what do you think? Anything to add here? And you're just like, whoa,
Yeah.
hello. Let's say you hadn't gone through, okay, I bullshitted at Ivy for sure. I'm more than happy to admit it. But that prepped me, even though I don't know how much value I added through my answers, but just the fact that I gave it a shot, reps. By the time I actually got to the consulting world, the corporate world, I was actually able to offer value at that point. So it's the compound interest over the 16 months of bullshitting, call it, that actually results in you being super confident and happily relied upon when needed.
I'm definitely quicker at like answering stuff on the fly because that happens too, like in our work when they ask for stuff like that.
Exactly.
I think the point I was making more like when it's like unprompted, because sometimes what I see in class, but also business, is that even if you're not called on, like they're just mentioning something just for the sake of having their voice said. And that's something that like, especially coming from a non-business background, it's new to me. And like, it's more like I don't understand it. And in like a different life, I was in the military, and that was like that's kind of where that came from for me. Is like you don't talk unless like you have something of value to give. Otherwise, like they just shit on you for it.
And I agree with that,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I think my mindset used to be along the same lines of, hey, it's got to be done a certain way. Like, why? If you have to provide value, otherwise you shut up. But at the same time, I do feel empathy for people. Now, the moment you try to, and this is just a personal learning, you got to understand what the other person's going through. Sometimes
Yep.
you don't know the full picture. So let's say someone's raised their hands and just yapped basically. Maybe for them it's a huge win, right? For just to be like, okay, in front of 70
Yep.
people, I was able to just speak.
Right.
That's huge. Some people have.
Right.
It's a very tough thing for them to do. So I was literally I got humbled once through an experience where I realized this, and for me at that point I was like, whoa, okay, maybe I should just
Yep.
rather than jumping to conclusions, take a step back and just be like, okay, what have they gone through? Where are they coming from? And I get it at the end of the day.
My eyes were always on the people who never spoke.
Yeah.
And when they spoke, I was so intrigued to actually listen to what they're
No, I
saying.
know.
And I was like, okay, finally, I heard this voice.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely, that was like, I do get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But like, even today, like, I'm someone who's very camera conscious. I can speak in front of 500 people, but I'm very camera conscious. But I'm trying today.
Yeah.
Thank you guys, appreciate it.
No, and I appreciate it, man. Like, and
job,
you're
man.
killing it right now. I'm sure. And there's so much value, right?
Yeah.
But I think let's get back on track. We were speaking about parents and how what role they play in like sending the kids abroad and stuff. Oftentimes, I've noticed another thing is sometimes parents have this idea that they want to send their kids to a specific university in a specific country, right? Versus, let's say the kid might be more talented in, let's say, creative thinking. So,
Right.
hypothetical scenario: how do you deal with parents who, let's say, want to send their kids to Ivy League schools, okay, but the kids are more creative and are very good in that space and want to go down a different path? Have you had experiences where the kids open up to you guys a little bit more and be like, hey, kind of going through this conflict with my parents, and how do you navigate that space?
Yep. So there was this client who wanted to study fashion, right? And then the the parents wanted the top tier conventional route of sending them to one of the top business schools. And then they were trying, like, the student actually wanted to go to Italy and study fashion, right? And the parents, like, I got on a personal sort of a counseling session with the student first and then with the parents. And this wasn't both of them together, because I want to understand what kind of like a perspective does the student have, because that student was like 17 years old, and I just wanted to make sure that they were actually dedicated enough to actually pursue fashion. And it wasn't because, again, under pressure of maybe your friends doing it, or maybe your brother has done it, or maybe your cousin's doing it. But then she actually told me that she is very creative, and she told me about different drawings that she did. And like, she even showed me, like, she even, like, I think she presented a proper portfolio as well, and I was super impressed by that. And her grades were also top notch. That is why their parents were like, why not study like at one of the top business schools? And then I had a session with their parents as well, and then I told them that, okay, you're investing close to, let's say, $120,000 here first. Second, if she happens to go there and she doesn't get successful and she doesn't like what she's doing, why are you investing so much? You should first make sure that there's an ROI on your investment as well, right? So that is the lens that I showed them. And then going towards the emotional side of it, again, I told them that if she fails, that's gonna have a long lasting effect on her entire life, because that is this is like the building steps or building stones of your journey ahead. So make sure you're supporting what she actually wants to do. And then again, if you trust her, then you gotta trust her with what she actually wants to pursue as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my approach to it.
Interesting. It's so tough because parents want the best for the child,
Right.
but at the same time, I think there's it's a very fine line of allowing the kid and trusting the kid to pursue their strengths versus you dictating what their strength should be, so to say, and like what kind. Just because you went to Yale doesn't mean
Yeah.
your kid has to go to Yale,
Exactly.
right? And that's one of the, I don't know, that's a very fine line. And so when you speak to the parents, is that part of the consultation package? Like we speak to the student first, then parents, or it's like, how do you get the
So
parents
I would
involved?
say it's both pre-acquisition and post-acquisition
Ah,
of
okay.
having them on board, right?
Mm-hmm.
So pre-acquisition, it's more sort of to confirm what services we'll provide, and then once we have them on board,
Okay.
that's more focused on the countries and like more psychological, like
Mm-hmm.
how should we shortlist? We call it like brainstorming
Mm-hmm.
and strategically finding out where your interest lies. Now we're like now one thing that I have on my mind is also developing some sort of psychometric tests so that the student I can actually, because they don't know what they actually want to do, like some of the high school students,
Yeah.
and then they're just following what their parents are telling. So having a psychometric test, I could easily define what their interests are, and then I could show them to their parents that this is what they're capable of, and then these are the universities or the schools that they should be
Mm.
targeting. And if both of them matches, like parents' opinion, my opinion, then we shortlist the schools and then we go ahead with this. So that's all of that is under construction, I would say right now.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Another, you mentioned 120K,
Yeah,
right? Let's talk about money. Money is one of the biggest things, but also the business models,
right.
right, of a counselor. Now, a lot of families have no idea in terms of how counselors get paid. And we've spoken about the business models, there are two different ones, right?
Yep.
Can you explain the business model of how the counseling, well, what's been the standard model of counseling up until now?
So there's B2B and B2C.
Mhm.
The B2B model is where the universities pay you commissions for getting a student in, and that's more sort of once a student joins the university and finishes his or her first semester, then you get a commission out of their tuition fee. So like first year tuition fees, maybe let's say 10%. And that's more lucrative than the B2C model. In the B2C model, it's more that you are targeting those top universities that don't function on the agent model. Like let's say Ivy. Ivy has a lot of applicants. Ivy would never have an agent to provide them with applications. Whereas if we speak about TMU or formerly Ryerson, Ryerson has an agency model, a B2C, B2B model. So for the B2C model, we would charge the students or maybe their families, and we would charge per university application.
Mhm.
So we can also bundle it up for like 3 universities, 5 universities. That is how we go about it. But the biggest gap in the industry is, as I said, B2B is more lucrative. So think about it, like 10% of the first year tuition fee. And the B2C model is per university application. So I would say the ROI on the B2B model is at least 3 times more.
Mm.
Like I would say the return is 3 times more over there. So a lot of counselors in the industry are focusing on misguiding students and sending them to B2B universities.
Yeah.
Now, what happens here is that they're not charging the students anything here. So again, coming from these Asian countries, India, Pakistan, and Middle East, everybody is in that mindset that they want to cut the costs, right? So they wouldn't be investing on these counselors, but trusting them enough to send their student anywhere abroad. So let's say for like a profile is capable of getting into U of T, now the student is going and doing their masters from, let's say, Brock.
Mm.
So that's the gap. Now Brock would pay you commissions, and that commission is, I would say, 3 to 4 times more than what I would have earned from that student. So that is how students are being misguided, and this is very brutal, according to me. Like it's their
Man,
future at
this is
stake, right?
scary. I think
Because they're pushing in like an agenda, and you're not
Huge.
actually listening to what the student wants.
and this is
Yeah.
one of the biggest reasons why I wanted you guys to come here and debunk this myth of
Right.
how much misguidance there is when it comes to students, right, and counselors. Because imagine a kid, and just hypothetically, you have a kid with so much potential, and let's say they are the next, I don't know, Bill Gates, or call it anyone you want. Maybe they have that potential, but somewhere down the line of deciding a university to go to, a counselor just misguides them a bit, and they end up in like C tier, D tier university, there goes their life to an extent.
Yep.
I'm not going to say it's a life wasted. That's a bit too much, but it's a talent gone to waste potentially, right? Where do you guys think? So you guys do not do B2B.
No, we recently started with our. So we have two different models. We call the B2C model, we call it the Acadway Pro, and the B2B model, we call it the Acadway Partnerships. So now, before we actually start selling the B2B or B2C model, first, based on the profile, we would recommend universities. Now, here we are not filtering them out based on B2B or B2C. Now, once I have the university list that a student should target, now I'll tell them that these are the universities that I would charge you for because these don't fall under my partnerships bracket. And these are the universities I won't be charging you for because these fall under the partnerships
But
bracket.
do you think that guides the students or their families? It skews them a certain way.
Yeah, because now I'm being brutally honest with them that
It's like transparency. That's
Hmm.
that you won't be charged for this one and this one like that. But the alternative is that they're just pushing this XYZ university because they're going to get a bigger cut because they're going to get the kickback once they finish their first semester.
So where are you seeing students lean towards more
so I would
at
say
that step?
I personally try to tell them the honest, like with utmost honesty, that you should select. Like how we divide schools is that first is like dream or ambitious targets, where you would have like maybe 10 to 20% or maybe 30% chances of getting in. Then comes your mid tier bracket, we call it your competitive or target schools. And then comes your backup or safe schools or secure schools. So we divide them into three tiers. And most of the safe tier schools are the ones which we have under our partnerships because they don't have a lot of applicants, right? So we tell them with utmost honesty that these are the universities that you should be targeting, and this is how you should be approaching it. Have these universities in the B2B model as backups. If nothing works out here, then you should target this over here. But if their pocket doesn't allow to pay for the B2C model, then I would be very honest with them that if you don't want to pay for the consultation, that you should target the universities from our B2B network.
Because in some cases too, like what Sid's talking about is you have a few schools that are like the dream, like, you know, I want to go to Harvard or Yale or something like that, some mid-tier ones, and then the safe ones that he says, like sometimes in some cases, like they just want to come to whatever country, Canada, United States.
Just get in. Yeah.
So if they have to go to like, you know, their last choice, like they still ultimately want to come and things like that. That's why we tier them because, that's where it comes in. Like you ask them what they want. Like, do you just want to go study at Ivy, or like do you just want to come to Ontario because you want to work in Toronto after? Because if it's that, then there's plenty of universities to pick from.
The point I'm trying to understand is from a customer journey perspective, right? If I'm a student and I come to you and I see, oh, right now, if I take the B2C model, although yes, I'm seeing you as businessmen now, right?
Okay.
You offer B2C. Now I get it. I know you guys. I know you're trying to do good. But if I see it from a consumer perspective, I'm like, oh, you guys are making me charge for this B2C because these schools don't have partnerships.
Yep.
And the other side is, oh, I don't have to pay anything right now.
Yep.
And it'll just come out of my tuition or whatever that is. I don't want to pay. These guys are cool. I just want to get the easy way out. And
But it's the value that you want to add to your profile.
So how do you, and that's the question is, how do you convince the student that, hey, dude, I actually have your best interest at heart. I don't care about the money just yet, let's say, because obviously you guys need funding to fund your business. But that relationship management with the customer, how do you do that at that point?
So one thing I tell all my students in terms of their research is that your primary research is the key. Don't trust anything that comes out from other people. Now, if I'm telling them that this university, like let's say Ivy League universities, should be targeted as well under the B2C model, then I would tell them that if you don't trust my word, go to your own research, and then you'll figure out that actually the case is that these universities don't have a partnerships model. And what we are trying to build is that we are trying to add more value. And the universities under the B2B model, we have our personal say as well with them. So let's say if we tell them that this profile is stronger, and it makes it very easier for us to build their applications. And I would say that we know that 80 to 90% of the times we can get them in. So I would completely be honest with them that this is the case. And now under the B2C model, what you need to figure out is that it's not going to be easy for you to get in. But if you get in, the odds of you making a much better successful career is higher.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you get into London Business School, you landing a top tier finance role is much higher than you getting into King's College London, KCL. And then KCL falls under the partnerships model.
Yeah.
Again, it's a top
Yeah,
school.
yeah.
I'm not saying it's a bad school.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
It's a top school.
Yeah.
But again, it falls under the partnerships model first. It's a B tier school. It might be an A tier if you're talking about that specific city. But if you think about it globally, it's a B tier
No,
school.
LSE, London Business School,
Yeah.
that difference here. Like you can't
Yep.
compete with
I'll
that.
be very honest, the word is out there that nobody would build your applications for these top schools for free.
Yeah.
Even students know that.
And what do you do with parents though? Like parents might sometimes be like, I just want to send my kid out abroad. How do you deal with that in terms of same thing? Let's say you trying to make parents understand the same point.
Yeah, so I think it's very different. The parents are just mostly, like most of the parents are thinking about money. How much should they invest on the counselors, right? I have had conversations where they say that, okay, this company is not charging us anything. Why are you charging us money? And then this company is also building our application for this university and they're not charging us money, but you're charging us money. And they're charging like 50% less than what you're charging. And our answers, first thing that our USP is that we have counselors in every continent. That what we are trying.
Yeah, can you
to
clarify
target.
what countries?
Yeah, so we have one in Europe, and both of us handle the American market, North American market, and then we have one in Dubai. She kind of handles all the applications in Asia, like Singapore, Dubai, India as well, and then we are having conversations on having someone for Australia right now, and then someone from Ivy League as well, because Ivy League is another tier for us. So that's the conversations we have been having. So what we are trying to build is someone who can not only get you inside the school, again, coming back to the point that help you throughout your journey. Like I can't speak for a fact that how your journey is going to be in Ireland. So again, but the other partner, the other counselor that we have, he speaks more about how your journey is going to be in Europe, because he's more culturally aware and more sort of knows about how things are going to turn out in what way, be it even job market, right? So that's what we are trying to build over there. What was the main essence of the question? I was
gonna.
off of that.
He was asking how do we get them to trust, and like what I was gonna
Like
say.
parents, right? How do you
Yeah.
get the parents to
Yeah.
trust, or the direction they take between seeing one as one option but they don't have to pay right now, or the other one where they'll have to pay you?
I think like going back to like getting to trust, like I think we're very like unlike like the other firms, like we're very transparent on the billing and things like that. Like the other ones, they just recommend the school and they do it because they know they're going to get a kickback. So I think that we're very transparent. We've always led like with authenticity in any conversation. And then as Sid was saying, like we really dig through on what they actually want. So if you want to work at that top banking firm in London, we're not going to send you to a D tier school that we're going to get a kickback from. We just want to know what you want. So we kind of follow through with exactly figuring out what it is that you want and then making the journey on how to get there. I think that's where the trust comes from.
And speaking from the business's POV, we also break the payments into different installments. Let's say we broke down the payments in 3 installments. So now this also gives that sort of trust to the parent. Like after the first installment, they would have time to analyze if this is actually adding value for them or not. So they would not be paying the second installment if they think.
Okay, so it's like a play as you go.
Kind of major timelines or deliverables.
Yeah.
So they can pick and choose whenever they want to stop.
I would say that again, if they don't pay the second installment, we'll stop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's
But like they
how-
have that option of like, if you don't
Yeah.
want to continue, it's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then, but we have this one rule that before you submit your first application, all your dues should be clear. So that's the model that we work on right now.
Interesting. Moving gears a bit. One of the things I'm noticing these days is there's a huge uptake of gap years, right? Ever since post-COVID. So in the US and UK specifically, gap year participation has doubled post-COVID. but the outcomes depend entirely on intentionality. Sorry. Um, the One of the things I was thinking about as I was prepping for this is if someone, right, comes to you saying, my dream is to go to Harvard, do an MBA kind of a thing, why might it be the wrong move in 2025?
You want me to take that?
Go for it.
Okay, so first I would try to understand their financial status and like financial resource availability.
Mm-hmm.
So first I'll see that if they don't get the ROI, are they okay with it or not? Like let's say if they don't get a job right after graduating, are they going to be okay to sustain themselves or not?
Mhm.
If the answer is yes, then there's the first tick, right? Second, what they actually want to do. Like let's say if someone's trying to go and become like an AI expert, go for it. Like you're going to do well. If someone's trying to go sort of in like an industry which is kind of unstable right now, then I would be like, again, there might be a 6 or 7 month gap after you graduate to actually finding a job. Is that going to be okay with you?
Mm-hmm.
And then last thing comes around the access to education loans. Like, do you have a stronger profile? Not only, obviously, if you're going to Harvard, you'll easily get an education loan. Let's say if you're going to a third-tier university or a C-tier university, is your profile strong enough for you to get a loan in your home country or the country you're trying to travel to? So these are the reasons, like these are the factors I would definitely consider before they actually make that move. These are more sort of external, but internally, again, I would want to see the drive to actually see that, again, are they trying to push themselves in a way that they want to settle abroad or not, or do they want to just spend some money of their parents and want to come back? I see a lot of students who are trying to go to the UK, pursue a 2-year degree, and then come back.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying anything's wrong in that. They know what they want. I think that's the first and the foremost thing. You should know what you want. So that's how I would put it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think he covered it, but it's like, to me, like when I like a red flag for me is that it's just for like the prestige and the sake of doing it. And you know, it's a free country in America. You're welcome to do it, but you're going to spend a lot of time and money doing it. And for what? Like, do you want to work for one of these top tier firms, or are you going to go, you know, have like a 30K a year startup and things like that? Like I don't know. It just comes down to the why. Why do they want to do it? And
yeah, I don't know if you have done this model in consulting called 5 Whys.
Mm-hmm.
So like you break down every situation. Why, and go up until 5 Whys. And that is something I do practice with a lot of my clients as well. To understand, okay, you want to go to Canada? Why? Okay, that's a reason, because it's easier immigration.
Mm-hmm.
Second, okay, Canada, which university? This university. Why?
Yeah.
This program. Why? If that student and I, both of us, can figure out the answers to all of these questions, then I know that this is adding value to them, and they're ready for it.
Yeah.
You know.
Interesting. So the reason I asked this question is because there's been a rise in gap years. And from my experience, my dad specifically was like, I pitched him the idea of a gap year once, and he's like, nope, shut it down super quick. And I get it, because for a lot of people, a lot of parents, it's like, okay, what are you going to do for that 1 year? But do you, as counselors, and like, do you think students should consider gap years? And if so, what's the biggest risk of it?
I would say yes and no both. It depends on, again, where they are in their lives right now. If someone has like 2 years of work ex and now they're trying to move abroad for their master's and not MBA, so I would be like, apply for the master's program. But if you want to give another gap year with 3+ years of work experience, now you should target an MBA. So have backups. So right now I had a client who wanted a gap year and wanted to target Ivy League schools. He was like, should I target McGill or should I wait for another year, work for some time, get a GMAT or GRE score, and then should I target Ivy League? I was like, definitely apply for McGill right now. Have that as a backup, because you never know what's going to change within 1 year. Have that as a backup. And if things don't work out, if you feel like you don't have the time and energy to write your GMAT, then we can scrap out the Ivy League part. So again, it's very case to case basis, I would say.
So you do recommend gap years if
Definitely.
and when needed.
Definitely.
It's about being like productive.
Yeah.
And unless like you need to go on like a long vacation because you need it mentally, but otherwise like you should be doing something, and I would have some kind of plan. Because what we
Yeah.
find, at least for like undergrad students, is their grades may be good or bad, but there's a whole other section of the application to fill out, and that's like their extracurriculars and stuff like that. And we push always like for the free time to like go do something, take like some kind of work or internship or volunteering or something. Like you shouldn't just be like doing nothing. It should be productive. And if you are just going to do nothing, then you might as well just go to school and do something.
And the reason why I say that we also support this model, but because this is not killing our business. So let's say if we are recommending someone to have a gap year, now we are the mentors.
Yeah.
So we enroll them in our mentorship model where we'll help them build a research paper, let's say, right? And then we'll help them with their finding internships and how to build, let's say, their application for the next year.
Gotcha.
We also have a client right now who is acting as an intern in our company.
Okay.
So we are giving them our sort of experience as well, building those relevant skills with that they can leverage in their applications as
I
well.
like that. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not do that?
Yeah.
Interesting. Let's talk about AI.
Sure.
AI is playing a huge role, and it's reshaping the education industry. Be honest, can you smell ChatGPT in an essay?
First draft that the client sends, yes. 100%.
Without even using like the detector or anything, you can
Straight away tell?
Yeah.
What are the biggest clues straight away that it's written through?
written too well. It's written too well.
Interesting.
And I
No,
think,
like it's not the vocabulary that like for an undergrad student, it's
Yeah.
not the vocabulary of
yeah.
an 18-year-old or 17, 18-year-old
Okay.
person.
How I catch it is with the commas and the hyphens.
Hyphens is a big
Oh,
one.
yeah.
If it's so
Hyphens are
properly
huge.
placed,
Yeah.
and I'm like, sure, this is
Yeah.
AI.
Mm-hmm.
But again, how we function is that before we actually give them to write their first draft, we provide them with essay tips, like the Acadway's essay tips. And what we provide them in that document is that every question for the essay is broken down into multiple paragraphs. And every paragraph, we provide them bullet points that what you should be covering. And those bullet points are based off of their CV. So it's an actual life story that we are trying to build in their essays. We're guiding them step by step. And now what they do is they copy paste our essay tips into ChatGPT, write something for me, and they send it back to us. And then I get on a call with them and I again say that same thing, that take this with a pinch of salt, but you hired me not to spoon feed you, but to guide you in a better way and in the correct direction. And if you're not trying to put in your time and energy here, you can have your money back. We don't want to work on this because again, you're not trying to build your own, like you're trying to build your own life. I'm here to support you, not to like spoon feed you or take you along with me, right?
And what I do to like scare them is that if they do this, like they're gonna, when you submit the application, a lot of them are being run through an AI checker, and then you're going to be filtered out and maybe even barred from applying because you're literally starting your academic journey by cheating. So
Ethics.
yeah,
One could argue.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't trust the accuracy of those AI detectors. I know a lot of hiring companies do
I
that.
agree.
I'm just a bit like I would love to see a version of how it detects AI.
Yeah.
Right? Because sometimes imagine like the probability if you have legit written this thing by you, but just for some weird reason, the AI detects it as AI.
Yep.
But you didn't have any wrong intentions over there, right? So anyway, that's a different topic. But
my point is just like, why risk it? Just put in the time and the
I think
efforts.
ethics-wise, I do understand it. But here's the thing: people's attention spans are like this. Let's say this podcast is what we're an hour 30 in right now. People are going to watch, I guess, 15 minutes and may say, "Oh, that was great." I'll be like, "Oh, that was shit," right? And companies thrive off attention right now. I had a very interesting conversation with university students lately, who I don't know, they have like a couple of years left, and they're like, I was like, how's it been right now? They're like, yeah, a lot of our classes are like, online, some of them, or our exams are just done online now. And I'm like, that is such a shit model because, and I'm like, how much do you leverage AI? They're like, oh, everything. Everything we do is
Exactly.
AI. I'm like, if you do everything AI, what's happening to your intellectual capability and your intellectual curiosity? Because I sense a huge danger in there being a huge decline. Maybe it's already begun of the intellectual
100%.
capability of people in general through the use of just abusing AI. So I'm thinking the next generation, what the heck's gonna be? What's it gonna be, right? And so the students just go straight away and say, yeah, AI is going to be everything, so I'm just going to leverage AI. Why shouldn't I leverage AI? I'm like, fair play. But at the same time, it's a huge risk because students are not, the younger generation are not understanding the importance of thinking intellectually and building the intellectual curiosity in your mind, because that's going to be a huge pain point. And I want to understand, maybe this is something to think about, is how can counselors play a part in this?
So, like, not only from the counseling POE, but I think that in general, I think AI is a great resource.
It's a resort. Exactly. It's a resource. It's a tool.
Yeah.
But they are thinking of it as a primary thing.
Yeah.
They think of AI as their brain now.
Exactly.
And that's the issue.
Yep. So I think how AI can be used in a very optimal way would be that, let's say if there was an IV case study, right? And now I have to go and speak up in the class. So after I read the case study, this is what I think about the case, right? So now I would use ChatGPT. I would tell ChatGPT that this is what I think about this specific business scenario. Can you push me over here?
Ideate. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what the professor is going to do. He or she's going to push me in the classroom. I don't know if you remember Kersey. He always pushed you.
Yeah.
Right? So I would
Too
use
much.
ChatGPT.
We're good in a way.
Yeah, in a good way.
That's our
Intimidating for
marketing
sure.
professor back at Ivy.
Yeah, intimidating for sure, but
He's the 5 whys. Why?
Exactly, yeah. I think it was 10, bro. He wouldn't stop, man. Yeah. But it was like, I would use ChatGPT in that way, that push me to think in a better, like in an open manner, and challenge my critical thinking skills, right? I don't know if you have a different perspective.
Mine is like, sometimes like I want to start to, like, doesn't matter if it's for work or anything, like I just want to start to research something, and I use it as like a jumping off point. Like, why is this? And then they send you a link, and then I use the link and I go and read it, but I'm not getting it to write anything for me. Like, maybe like suggestions or things like that. It's really good for, especially for work. It's very good for, if you have a bunch, like a big report or meeting notes, it's very good for pulling out like the key things. Like, what are the 5 key things from this meeting or this report? And I like it like for that, because I could spend my time reading the whole thing, but I just want the meat of what it's about. And I think it's good for that. But if you're getting it to write and do all the work for you, then you're paying a lot of money to go to school just to write your
that's the
essays,
biggest thing
right?
I'm trying to figure out is parents sending their kids abroad, and then the kids just leveraging AI, so to say. It's like, where's the value add now when it comes to, I'm just trying to think, go 50 years back, right? In the 70s or whatnot, how did people live without technology? So to say? No phones, nothing. You got to go to your class, study, like real study, exams, read books to study, not online. And here we are, fast forward 50 years. I'm just trying to imagine kids. I don't know when's the last time I saw a teenager make an intellectual argument with someone else. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
All I see them is game, digital stuff. Fair enough, like we're in this creator economy right now. I understand it, but that's a very, I get super worried about that, especially thinking, like, you know, if I'm fortunate enough to have kids, oh my word, like, do I really want to have kids in this society? I don't know. Like, that's a thing. And then it really begs the question of, so actually this might be a good learning. I don't know if you know Naval Ravikant. So he's a Silicon Valley investor, one of my personal inspirations. And he's king of quotes. So he has this book called The Almanac of Naval Ravikant. And essentially he uses Twitter as an ideation space. So every single thing, this book is in a consolidation of all his tweets explained. That's the book. So one of his biggest learnings in life is, there are 3 most important things that decisions you'll ever make. One is what you do, right? In terms of a job, do something that feels like work to others, but play to you.
Mhm.
The second one he says is who you spend your life with, partner, very, very important. Don't settle for mediocrity, right? And the third one is location,
Yep.
because location dictates everything.
Mhm.
It dictates your friendship circle, your intellectual capacity, and how you're going to grow that, or let it be stagnant depending on where you are. Your kids, should you have kids, their childhood. So there's a lot of factors. It's long-term visionary thinking that's required over there. But you know what the funny thing is about these three things is we as humans spend the least amount of time deciding these things. So if I'm in Canada now, we're in Canada now. Yeah, I've been here 5 years, so I'm just going to be here now. And I'm in my 20s, so I need to settle. Ooh, you don't need to. Who said that?
Yeah.
That's society's stigma, sure,
Yep.
but you don't have to. So it's like for students, I'm assuming it's a huge element of where you place them
Yep.
is, hey, if you want to move to Australia, this is what comes with Australia. If you want to go to Norway, this is what comes with Norway, right? I think that's a huge aspect. So do you guys, what's your reaction to that immediately?
So reaction to
That quote of like how location is one of the most important decision-making factors.
I think location, like I'll speak about my example. I tell this to a lot of people that external and like climate is something that matters to me a lot, like where I'm settling. And I'm not a fan of the
Costa Rica?
heat. I'm not.
Okay, no.
Sorry, what do you say?
Costa Rica?
I'm not a big fan of the heat and humid temperatures. And one of the reasons why I picked Canada was because
Cold.
I don't like
But in the winter
the
only.
peak cold, but I would rather stay in than walk around during the heat, right? So definitely one of the reasons why I moved here. And then again, what I tell the clients again is that you need to understand why you're targeting one specific country. Is it because of the school? Even if it's because of the school, I don't think that's wrong. Like if you're targeting Ivy League, let's say if you're targeting LBS, or let's say you're targeting UCD in Ireland. Again, Ireland might not be your ideal choice for the country that you want to move in, but getting your master's done from UCD might be the case because it's cheaper, right? Now, once you get your master's from UCD, then you can move abroad to the UK. So break it down into smaller steps, break your journey down depending on your financial resources based on what you want to study and where do you see yourself. So again, reverse engineering. You want to go to the UK, but you don't have the funds, go to Ireland, do you complete your degree, and then apply for jobs in the UK because that's going to open up doors for you.
In terms of destinations,
Yep,
what's hot right now?
go for it.
So a lot of changes have happened with Canada and United States, so that market's kind of cooling right now. We've actually, what's that term? We've seen a lot of reverse, what is that term?
Migration.
Reverse migration. So a lot of, especially like the Indian demographic is going back or elsewhere, but they're leaving Canada in record numbers. And what I've read about, we've read different things, but I've been reading about a lot too, is Australia is kind of the next shift towards where education is going to be, where like international people want to go. We saw this a lot like years ago. So what was interesting when we started this is before like all the Indians had come to India, Canada, Ontario especially has seen this before. Back then it was China. When I was a kid, it was a big migration with Chinese people.
You
And
mean
then
Indians came to Canada, right? You said Indians came to India.
Oh, Indians came to Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
scratch that
Yeah,
out. Scratch that out.
Yeah.
But that when I was growing up, like there was a huge migration coming in here, and a lot of the challenges and stuff that the Indians in Ontario and Canada are facing are the same things we've seen before with a different one. And I think it just comes in like ebbs and flows. And with that being said, while there's people leaving Canada, I see the shift more for education, at least going towards more Australia. I think you had mentioned.
Yeah, I would mention Ireland.
Yeah,
And
so-
Germany because it's cheaper as well.
Yeah.
Right?
So in Germany, isn't it like if you can speak German, you get
It's
a
like
huge cut,
almost like 100%. Like
Yeah.
almost free.
yeah, but you gotta pay for your living, obviously. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
there.
yeah.
But the education is almost free.
That's a huge amount though.
And that goes for the same for most European universities. Like I did like my degree in Norway, and the only fee there was for the year was like this like a couple $100 semester fee.
Yeah.
And that was it. And it's the top business school in like Norway. And imagine it only
Yep.
costs like a couple $100. Like, that's crazy, especially like for an international
Yeah.
student. I really recommend like the European countries because they have this thing called select schools. They have it called Erasmus. And what it is there's all these it's like a group of schools, and like you have to go abroad for part of it. So while I was, my school was part of that in Norway. And like while I was like studying at a Norwegian business school, like the people on my floor, like I had Germans and I had people from Denmark. I had like a couple French guys. There was like, I'm the Canadian. And it was like a great mix. And what's great about that is like they can go study at some European school, and they can have an opportunity to go study another European school because it's already built into their program. And I think it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, I think I'm seeing a lot of, specifically within my family friend circle, a lot of medicine students targeting
Yep.
like Hungary, Germany, Netherlands, from what I recollect. Might be butchering this, but that's where they're going. Not even the UK. UK is like, maybe. But Europe has something to offer that other countries don't, I guess.
Yeah, and multiple countries like ramp up their different offerings every
Yeah,
year,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then they drive the attraction accordingly.
Yeah.
I feel, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
if I was a betting man, like my money is gonna like be on Australia, and that's like we're hoping to have someone like
Yeah.
boots on the ground in Australia. But
Gotcha.
I don't know too many Australians. Maybe you could help us with that. So.
Potentially, for sure, for sure. And
bro.
I
Let's
might
have
be able
a word
to.
around that.
Yeah, but where can people find you guys?
So we are available. First of all, the company's name is the Acadway, and then we are available on Instagram. We're available on LinkedIn, and you can reach out to any of us as well. And apart from that, we have an ops team as well. So even if you fill out our form on the website, or even if you're on our website, you can be directed towards our Calendly link straight up, because we provide first free counseling session for 25 minutes where we can actually discuss about how we can work together on your applications or your academic journey.
Awesome, gents. This was gold. You know, if this chat has helped someone understand that it's not about rankings, right?
Yep.
And don't
It's
go
about
down
what
that
you
rabbit.
want.
It's about what you want.
what you
So
want.
if we've done that, mission accomplished. And thank you so much for
Yeah.
taking the time to decode some wisdom
Absolutely.
today.
Of course.
Thanks for having us.
Anytime.
Great time.
Well done, you, for getting through to the end of this episode. This is exactly what I want. And I hope you've taken a lot of learnings and decoded some wisdom that you can implement in your life. This is what it's all about for me. So if you're watching it on Spotify, give us a follow, drop us a 5-star rating. And if you're on YouTube, give us a good like, subscribe to the channel, and also feel free to comment. I love to engage with the audience. And with that, I'll see you next week.